Hello, hello. Welcome, y'all. Good morning. It's an early stream today. Today we're going to be checking out the Epstein files. See if they get released today. There's going to be a vote. There will be a vote later today on whether the Epstein files will get released. But for right now, there's a press conference happening in DC. So I figured, let's pop up the stream. Let's check it out. And yeah, we'll see what ends up happening with this press conference, what they say. What happened to their feed right here? I don't know. Also, I'm sure you guys are aware though, X is down for literally everyone. There's like a whole chunk of the internet that's down. So, let me check if it's back up though. It wasn't up for me for like 5 minutes. It's up now, but it keeps coming up, going down. This press conference should be happening, I think, in like a couple minutes. So the title, oh wait one second, I got audio issues. So the title of this feed though that I'm getting, this is from 7 News DC. It says watch live as Jeffrey Epstein survivors gather on Capitol Hill to hold a press conference and demand that lawmakers vote to release the full unredacted files. So we're gonna see the survivors of Jeffrey Epstein come out. They're about to speak. And, demand the files get released today. It's gonna be an interesting day, folks. An interesting day. Epstein Files Transparency Act. That sign in the back says release the files now, and the other one says justice for Epstein survivors. Google says they aren't voting until at the earliest 2 p.m. The earliest being 2 p.m. Wow. So this might be a long stream then. Maybe. If there's other things to do, but I'll be live when the vote is happening live. So. Let me check and see if there's like one more angle that I can get right here. You know, we do want all the angles, so.
Do you want to speak or do you want? It's up to you.
Just what is it? 2 minutes?
Yeah, good.
Yeah, that'd
good.
be great.
Okay,
I appreciate
great.
it, Ro. Thank you.
All right, here we go.
Let her go before me.
This press conference is about to start.
Whatever.
Whatever.
Guys.
Okay.
No, you do it. You're the sponsor.
She's gotten in enough trouble.
I have one more angle I'll put up, just one more. It might have better audio as well.
Good morning. Today is the first day of real reckoning and abandoning class.
This one's better.
We're here to stand with forgotten and abandoned Americans against an Epstein class that had no regard for the rules or the laws. Look, this is one of the most horrific and disgusting corruption scandals in our country's history. You had Jeffrey Epstein, who literally set up an island of rape, a rape island. And you had rich and powerful men, some of the richest people in the world, who thought that they could hang out with bankers, buy off politicians, and abuse and rape America's girls with no consequence. Because survivors spoke up, because of their courage, the truth is finally going to come out. And when it comes out, this country is really going to have a moral reckoning. How did we allow this to happen? There should be no buildings named after people in this Epstein class. There should be no scholarships named after them. They shouldn't be enjoying the perks of being affiliated with corporations or universities or writing op-eds or being lionized. And many of the survivors will tell you some of these people still are celebrated in our society. That's disgusting. There needs to be accountability. I want to recognize first and foremost the survivors. They are the ones who made today possible. Many of you had forgotten about this issue, and frankly, for decades we have not done enough about this issue, and it's only because of their advocacy, them coming here to the Capitol. They showed up here time and again, and on September 3rd, that the country started to pay attention. And I also want to thank the courage of two of my colleagues in particular. Both of them have suffered, as you know, extraordinary political consequences for what they did. One, my colleague, Congressman Thomas Massey. This would not have been possible if he hadn't led the discharge petition that got 218 signatures and is going to force a vote in the House of Representatives. And this would not have certainly been possible if it were not for the courage of Marjorie Taylor Greene. She signed the petition, and I would keep texting Thomas, is she going to drop off? Is she going to drop off? Because there was so much pressure against us, so much attacks against her. But she stood with the survivors. For Thomas or me, this has never been political. This is not about questions of Trump or Biden. This is a question of doing the right thing for survivors. We're going to get a vote today. I expect an overwhelming vote in the House of Representatives, and I don't want the D.C. swamp playing any games. They need to pass this in the Senate, and they should not amend it. President Trump has said he would sign the Epstein Transparency Act. It's going to get overwhelming support in the House. It should go straight to the Senate, and it should be signed. No amendments, no adding loopholes. Justice is long overdue. And I want to hand it over to my colleague, Representative Thomas Massey.
I want to start by thanking the survivors. I mean, they're giving everybody hope in this country. There are survivors of other sex crimes in this country wondering if they should come forward. They're clouded with shame and concerned that law enforcement will do nothing. And these survivors have stepped forth, taking that same risk, worried that they will be defamed themselves. They have been defamed for stepping forward. But we're going to get justice for them. That's going to happen today in the People's House. The founders set up our government with 3 branches and 2 branches of Congress. And I don't think it's any coincidence that this fight is being started and it's being won in the House of Representatives. I have people, other survivors of other sex crimes, who come to me and say, thank you. You give me hope. You give us hope. There is hope here. We fought the president, the attorney general, the FBI director, the Speaker of the House, and the vice president to get this win. But they're on our side today, though. So let's give them some credit as well. They are finally on the side of justice. And as Rose said, don't muck it up in the Senate. Don't get too cute. We're all paying attention. If you want to add some additional protections for these survivors, go for it. But if you do anything that prevents any disclosure, you are not for the people and you are not part of this effort. Do not muck it up in the Senate. So with that, I just want to say I am hopeful too. I didn't know that we would succeed when Roe and I started this effort. Most discharge petitions never make it, maybe only 4%. So we had long odds. But we had some brave women on the Republican side. My colleague Marjorie Taylor Greene is one of them who's here with us today. You cannot even imagine the consequences that they have suffered. My colleague Lauren Boebert and my colleague Nancy Mace, they stood so strong. They put their names on a document in here, and then they were pressured in ways that you cannot even imagine, and they stood strong. And that's why we're here today. And they didn't take us seriously over at the executive branch or in the Senate, because they always thought they could flip one of these women. They could convince them or cajole them or intimidate them into taking their names off of this petition. But they did not succeed. This is a victory for those women and women all over the country today, and I'm just glad to be a part of it. With that, I want to introduce my colleague, Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Thank you, Thomas. Thank you, Ro. I woke up this morning and I turned to my weather app to check the temperature, and it was 32 degrees. And my first thought was, hell has froze over. I want to speak goodness and love and hope into the women standing behind me and all of the other survivors whose names you don't even know, but stand with these women. They are survivors, and they are strong, and they are courageous, and they are daughters of God. They are not victims. These women have fought the most horrific fight that no woman should have to fight, and they did it by banding together and never giving up. And that's what we did by fighting so hard against the most powerful people in the world, even the President of the United States, in order to make this vote happen today. I was called a traitor by a man that I fought for 6 years for. And I gave him my loyalty for free. I won my first election without his endorsement, beating 8 men in a primary. And I've never owed him anything, but I fought for him for the policies and for America first. And he called me a traitor for standing with these women and refusing to take my name off the discharge petition. Let me tell you what a traitor is. A traitor is an American that serves foreign countries and themselves. A patriot is an American that serves the United States of America and Americans like the women standing behind me. And I want to tell you that this only became possible today because the American people, whom we serve as representatives here in Congress, demanded that this vote happen, and they put more pressure on every single elected politician in this city than has ever been put on them. And today you are going to see probably a unanimous vote in the House to release the Epstein files, but the fight, the real fight, will happen after that. While I want to see every single name released so that these women don't have to live in fear and intimidation, which is something I've had a small taste of in just the past few days, just a small taste. They've been living it for years. But the real test will be, will the Department of Justice release the files? Or will it all remain tied up in investigations? Will the CIA release the files? Will a judge in New York release the information? That's information that needs to come out. And will the list of names that these women privately hold, and they hold it because of their fear in their heart of what would happen to them if they release it on their own, will that list of names come out? That's the real test. So I want to thank Thomas Massie and Ro Khanna for your bravery in doing something that is much needed in America, crossing the political aisle that has become bigger than the Grand Canyon in America. But these men crossed that aisle on behalf of these women. And that is more of what is needed today in America than ever in our history. So thank you so much. Who's next? Ro, I'll let you introduce.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Marjorie, Representative Green, for your courage and your words. Before I introduce our survivors, I just want to say that they will make their statements, and then you can ask questions of Representative Massie, myself, or Representative Green, but we do not want people asking questions and cross-examining the survivors. They're here to tell their stories, and they should be heard by the American people with respect. Of course, Congressman Massie, myself, and Congresswoman Green would be happy to answer questions after that. With that, let me introduce the survivor who's helped organize a lot of this, and will be telling her own story and introducing the other survivors. Haley Robson, thank you for your courage and leadership.
Absolutely, thank you all. Oh, good morning. It's a little chilly coming from Florida, not used to it. I want everybody to take a look. I know everybody sees us today as grown adults, but we are fighting for the children that were abandoned and left behind in the reckoning. This is who you're fighting for. This is who Congress is fighting for. This is who the House of Representatives are fighting for, and hopefully the Senate will fight for us too. I want to kick this off right, and I want to address Marjorie Taylor Greene, Thomas Massie, and Ro Khanna. I want to express my gratitude for all three of you, and I know, Ro Khanna, we spoke earlier. This is an incredible thing that I'm watching as a Republican, and this is non-political, but for you to go against your own party and to be ostracized, there's no place for political violence, there's no place for intimidation, and I can say firsthand, stepping out against Epstein and his crimes against children, we have all experienced that ourselves. So for you to knowingly put yourselves at risk and put your career at risk is unbelievable to watch, and we are so grateful. I also want to make a proposition for Marjorie Taylor Greene, because you've been an advocate for this. If you decide to read those names on the House floor for immunity, I will be more than happy, no security needed. I will stand beside you. I will hold your hand. I will hold your coat in solidarity with you. And on top of that, I did talk to Jayapal, who said she would be more than happy to read those names too on the floor with all of us. It's time that we put the political agendas and party affiliations to the side. This is a human issue. This is about children. There is no place in society for exploitation, sexual crimes, or exploitation of women in society. There's no room for it, guys. We're not having it. And to the President of the United States of America, who is not here today, I want to send a clear message to you. While I do understand that your position has changed on the Epstein files, and I'm grateful that you have pledged to sign this bill, I can't help to be skeptical of what the agenda is. So with that being said, I want to relay this message to you. I am traumatized. I am not stupid. I am traumatized. I am not stupid. You have put us through so much stress, the lockdowns, the halt of these procedures that were supposed to have happened 50 days ago. The Adelita Grijalva who waited to get sworn in and then get upset when your own party goes against you because what is being done is wrong. It's not right. For your own self-serving purposes, this is America. This is land of the free. Land of the free. In 1863, we have a woman on top of the Capitol building represent freedom. I do not feel free today. I don't know if the women behind me feel free today. So I am begging every member of Congress, every representative to step up and choose the chaos. Choose the survivors. Choose the children. Protect the children. All children. You protect all of us equally. Thank you very much for your time. Following that, Lisa Phillips will be the next survivor.
Good morning. My name is Lisa Phillips. It's an honor to stand here again for something America is finally united on: the immediate release of the entire Epstein files. In a divided nation, this is one demand we all share. Last time I stood here, I made a promise to all survivors watching. If those in power refused to release the truth, we would start uncovering it ourselves. For anyone who doubted that, that moment has already arrived. Since that day, more survivors across the country and around the world have reached out. Text, emails, DMs, firsthand accounts, and evidence. Many are women who were abused or trafficked through the international modeling pipeline Epstein built, promising visas, apartments, opportunities, futures, while exploiting their dreams for abuse. Most are still terrified to speak publicly because the men involved are powerful. They're connected, and as we know, they're protected. For too long, survivors have watched others speak for us. And while we are grateful for our allies in Congress on both sides, we've realized something. This fight belongs to us. We lived it, and we know the truth. And we will not wait quietly for institutions to decide when we're allowed to speak. The survivors now coming forward have entrusted us with their stories. We are sharing that information with the proper authorities, and when it can safely be made public, it will be. So today, we are launching something historic. The first national, survivor-led political movement in America. Nonpartisan, laser-focused on exposing the systems, the loopholes, power structures, and silencing mechanisms that have protected predators for far too long. We are stepping directly into the halls of power, into the political arena. We will help rewrite laws that failed us and build protections for our nation's children together, targeted by sexual exploitation. Together, today, survivors begin our own fight, the survivor revolution. And we intend to change this nation for the better. If you're a survivor who wants to join us, please reach out. And to anyone who benefits from the current system, intentionally or not, remember this. Alone, yes, we are afraid. But together, we are feared. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I am Jenna Lisa Jones, and just as Haley, I would just like to give a little reminder that this was me at 14 years old. I was a child. I was in 9th grade. I was hopeful for life and what the future had held for me. He stole a lot from me at 14. So just a little reminder there for everybody. Sorry. So, I just want to start out by saying thank you for all of you for being here today. I want to start by expressing my deepest gratitude to the members of Congress who have stood with us, the survivors, in demanding the transparency and justice. Your support is a signal that this institution can still serve the American people. This issue was never one that should have divided us the way it has. In fact, it should have united us. Sexual abuse is not a Republican issue. It is not or a Democratic issue. It is also not a hoax. We are here as American survivors of a man who used his wealth and power to hurt young girls and women. The world should see the files to know who Jeffrey Epstein was and how the system catered to him and failed us. Emotionally, this process has been distressing. First, the administration said it would release everything and applauded President Trump for that. Then it fought to release nothing. Now that checks and balances of our democracy have worked and the bill is getting passed to release the files, we are hearing the administration say they intend to investigate various Democrats who were friends with Epstein. I beg you, President Trump, please stop making this political. It is not about you, President Trump. You are our president. Please start acting like it. Show some class. Show some real leadership. Show that you actually care about the people other than yourself. I voted for you, but your behavior on this issue has been a national embarrassment. It is time to take the honest, moral ground and support the release of these files, not to weaponize pieces of the files against random political enemies that did nothing wrong, but to understand who Epstein's friends were, who covered for him, what financial institutions allowed his trafficking to continue, who knew what he was doing but was too much of a coward to do anything about it. Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell were able to recruit and abuse young girls and women. Then the country will learn nothing, and has horrible history will repeat itself if we do not do something about this. Thank you to the brave congressmen and women who have stood by us and recognized our side is the American side, and we should all be proud once again to be Americans. I want to just extend my thank you so much to all three of you, very, very much. The first time we were here, listening to the, people yell shame at you, and when she was here in support of us, really hit home and spoke some volumes, and I just very much appreciative of your support, and we stand by you. Don't let any of them bully you. We're here for you. Thank you, guys.
She kind of popped off, I won't lie.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you all so much for coming together today and taking the time to listen to us. Your presence means the world, and it shows commitment to understanding and supporting survivors and Americans. I stand before you today with a heavy heart. I originated from Brazil, and I came to the United States when I was 8 years old. I was only 14 when I first encountered Jeffrey Epstein, and my daughter is now almost at that age. At 14, the only things she should be concerned with are going to school, practicing at her cheerleading competitions, and enjoying her time with her friends and family. She should not have to bear the burden of worrying about being manipulated or exploited. At this age, she is still a child, and no child should ever have to face such threats. I also want to address a troubling statement made by a prominent figure on a major platform who suggested that a 14-year-old should not be considered a victim of pedophilia. This is a dangerous and incorrect notion. When we talk about how children at 14 should still be treated as children, I ask you to look at the young people around you. Remember when you were that age? Do you think you should have been responsible for being groomed? Put yourselves in our position when we were young. I'm here today not to just share my story, but to call on all of you to help make a difference. We need to support to push for the Transparency Act and release the Epstein files. Please reach out to your Congress members and senators and urge them to support this crucial legislation. The truth is something that we all deserve. and it is vital for safety and protection of the future of generations. Think about all the young people in your life, your daughters, your nieces, your friends. Let's stand together and ensure that they grow up in a world where they are safe and valued. I often wondered, why did this happen to me? And then I realized, God only gives you what you can handle. I'm here for a purpose, and that purpose is to make a difference today. So, let's stand together to protect our children and our peace. Thank you.
Good morning. I want to say a few things before I begin. My speech may not be great. It was thrown together last minute as I only came here, decided Friday, when one of us, who has spoken several times, decided she couldn't come because of the threats. She was too scared. So I want to say, when you threaten one of us, you're threatening all of us. Yep. We are together now, and that's never going to change. This is me at 16 when I met Jeffrey Epstein. Now I'll start. It is an honor to stand here before the American people. However, I shouldn't have to stand here at all. I'm here because as a child, I was pulled into Jeffrey Epstein's world, a world built on exploitation and manipulation of innocence and the protection of powerful men and women who believed that they were untouchable. Today, we'd rather be preparing for the holidays. We'd rather be at home with our families, baking with our children and decorating the Christmas tree as we try to move past this horrific moment that has impacted our entire adult lives. However, that's not possible because it's become something it should have never been, political and sensationalized. The truth is simple. We were victimized as children and failed repeatedly by the very system that was supposed to protect us. That's why we stand here today, to demand justice and accountability, not just for Epstein and his crimes, but for every predator and every enabler who participates in or protects abusers. The Epstein case was gravely mishandled consistently and deliberately over many years. Epstein could have been stopped decades ago, but instead he was able to continue his abuse, even during his sweetheart deal, yes, with his ankle monitor on and beyond. A deal that protected him and silenced us. While I was a child fighting to survive what happened to us, federal prosecutors were negotiating ways to shield powerful adults. And the failures didn't stop there. Our civil cases were met with hostile judges and delay tactics, intimidation, and PR campaigns designed to smear us in the public eye. We were treated as problems to be managed instead of victims to be protected. Today, something has changed. Individually, our voices were whispers. Together, they've become impossible to ignore. We are encouraged to see elected officials from both parties, thank you, come together and finally take action to release the files. I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Good job. Yes, Ashley.
Good morning. My name is Wendy, and I'm standing here today with a truth that still scares me to say out loud. I'm going to put this down because I can't hold both, as you guys saw, but that was me when I was 14 when I met Jeffrey Epstein. None of us here signed up for this political warfare. We never asked to be dragged into battles between people who never protected us in the first place. We are exhausted from surviving the trauma and then surviving the politics that swirl around it. When survivors travel to speak, to advocate, to stand for the truth, we do it with our own money, from our own pockets, carrying our own fear, shaking in our own bodies. There is no team, there is no paycheck. It's just us hoping our voices make a difference. And it puts a pit right in your stomach because you know you're standing on the right side of history. Yes. But standing on the right side of history is not a comfortable place to be. Yep. It never has been. And in a sick, heartbreaking way, it's an honor to show up, an honor to speak here, and an honor to stand in light when the world tried to keep us in the dark. And what keeps me standing is, even with all this fear, I have a 14-year-old daughter myself, the same age I was. And when I look at her, I see the little girl I used to be, the one that no one protected. My greatest fear in this entire world is history repeating itself. And I will do anything, absolutely anything, to make sure that she has to never be one of these girls standing in front of a crowd like this today in her life. So today, from the safest and bravest places inside myself, I am asking Congress, please pass the bill. Please release the records. Stop making survivors fight alone for the truth that should have protected us in the first place. To the representatives that support us, thank you. Thank you for standing beside survivors so we don't have to face this fear alone. Thank you for choosing what is right over what is easy. And every survivor who is scared right now, your fear is real. Your courage is real, and even though we're terrified, we keep showing up. Because someone has to tell the truth. Someone has to protect these children. We deserve safety then, we deserve it now. And we are done being afraid so others can stay comfortable. So with that, I want to say thank you guys for having us. And I just hope that people can remember that as survivors, our story never leaves us, but the choice that you make to pass this bill, your career is in front of you, and that choice will follow you. Everybody will know. So thank you.
Good job. Well said, Cindy. You're incredible.
Hello, everybody. My name is Danny Bensky. This was me at 17 years old. Coming from the dance world, I was recruited in 2004 after a systematic breaking down where Epstein leveraged my mother's brain tumor scans. He threatened me to withhold care for her. He trapped me in a year-long cycle of abuse. The last time I was here in Washington, D.C., I talked about being a part of this beautiful mosaic of women behind me, and they are exactly that. They are a beautiful mosaic of energy and passion and love and life. I am one story of 1,000. You think of that number, 1,000. I spoke of how big our hopes and dreams once were, and I talked about how they were completely shattered at the hands of Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein. Now, I look at this amazing community behind me. They are survivor sisters. We are together. We stand together in this. And I realize that we are a representation of women across America. We come from different backgrounds. We have different religions. We are different races, different creeds, different ethnicities. We have different political affiliations. Some of us don't want to be political at all. And yet we stand here together for this cause. We're united in the call for transparency, complete transparency, to find justice. Justice for our younger selves. These pictures that you see, they're real people. I wish I could go back and give my former self a hug and say, this matters and it's going to change, and mean it. We are standing here for justice for the youth of tomorrow, and justice for those who are no longer with us, like the beautiful, brave Virginia Giuffre. We understand that the road is long, but I implore you to stay the course, please. Living in an age where you can get news in 10-second clips on your phone, I know that this is a big task for us, but it's a very personal one for survivors. It's a very personal one for us as a country. So I'd like to ask you to try something right now. I'd like everybody to close their eyes or soften their gaze just for a moment, and I want everybody to think of a child that is close to them between the ages of 14 and 18 years old. It could be your daughter, it could be your niece, it could be a friend's kids, it could be you at a former age, it could be your mother at that age. But really envision that for a second, 14 to 18 years old. Once you think of that person, I want you to think about what they feel like. What is their energy? What do they smell like? What sound do they make when they laugh? Really think about that child just for a moment. Now I want you to picture a pair of giant looming wooden doors and an overbearing marble landing. Those are the doors to Jeffrey Epstein's house. Do you allow that child to enter or not? If the answer is yes, you would allow entrance. You stand with predators. If the answer is no, then congratulations, you're on the right side of justice. Now you have homework. I am calling for the American people. You have homework. Call your congressional leaders. Call your senators. Please support this bill. Let's get it all released. Thank you very much.
Good morning. My name is Annie Farmer, and this is a photo of me and my sister Maria Farmer. Around the time I was 16 and she was 25. That's how old we were when we were abused by Epstein and Maxwell. Survivors have repeatedly stated that our pursuit of transparency and justice is a nonpartisan issue. But given the political noise surrounding this case, I just want to remind people of some of the facts. In 1996, when my sister Maria bravely blew the whistle on this group by reporting to the FBI what Epstein and Maxwell did to both of us, they hung up on the phone on her, and there was no follow-up of any kind. Bill Clinton was president. In 2006, the FBI came to us, finally interviewed us, and asked us both to be witnesses against Epstein. We were very anxious, but we agreed. And then we didn't hear back from them due to their infamous sweetheart deal. George W. Bush was president. In 2015, when the DOJ was sent FOIA requests for Maria's FBI files, and they were denied, as they have been many times, Barack Obama was president. In 2019, when Epstein died in prison due to either negligence or foul play, Donald Trump was president. In 2023, Maria's attorneys sent a letter on her behalf to the government, requesting an investigation into the repeated law enforcement failures in this case, similar to what was done in the case of Larry Nassar. They declined to do so. Consequently, my sister filed notice that she would be suing the government for failing to uphold its legal, ethical, and moral duties in this case. Joe Biden was president. This year, after campaigning on a pledge to finally release the files, under Trump's second presidency, the DOJ announced they were closing the investigation into Epstein's co-conspirators, and then transferred Ghislaine Maxwell into a prison camp, where it is well documented that she is receiving special treatment. This is not an issue of a few corrupt Democrats or a few corrupt Republicans. This is a case of institutional betrayal. Because these crimes were not properly investigated, so many more girls and women were harmed. My sister, because of her bravery, was repeatedly threatened and lived in fear, with dire consequences for her health and her career. 30 years later, even as oceans of allegations and obvious truths have emerged, the government has still not chosen transparency. This is why we have all come together as one united voice to demand the release of all the Epstein files and to finally bring the truth out of the shadows.
Yes. Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed members of Congress, and everyone gathered here today, I want to start by thanking the three of you. Thank you. It takes a lot of bravery to do what you're doing. We hear you. We see you. It means a lot for you to be here with us, and I know my sister would be incredibly proud. This is the moment she was fighting for and the moment that all survivors are fighting for, so thank you. My name is Sky Roberts, and I stand before you as the brother of Virginia Roberts Giuffre, a warrior, a mother, and a sister whose legacy will forever resonate in the hearts of those who understand the fight against injustice. Today we find ourselves in a place of deep sorrow, shattered by the loss of our beloved sister. Yet, we are honored and privileged to carry her voice forward and continue her relentless fight alongside her fellow survivor sisters. Virginia's story is one that should have been filled with promise, but instead it became a harrowing tale of exploitation and survival. At just 16 years old, she took a job at Mar-a-Lago, believing she had secured a dream summer position. But that dream quickly morphed into a nightmare when Ghislaine Maxwell preyed upon her innocence. This isn't just the story of one girl, it's a story about the insidious nature of power and abuse, a dark chapter in our society that must be told. Virginia was no stranger to trauma. In her memoir, Nobody's Girl, she shares the painful truth that she had already suffered abuse at the hands of our father and a family friend. But what happened next was unfathomable. Epstein and Maxwell didn't just abuse her, they trafficked her to a network of the rich and powerful. Princes, prime ministers, politicians, financiers, and lawyers. These men committed unspeakable acts against her will, and against the will of countless survivors who stand united with us today. Virginia's strength was tested in many ways that most of us can hardly imagine. She was manipulated, coerced, and threatened, forced into complicity in her own devastation. She often spoke of psychological scars that ran deeper than the physical ones. From the start, she wrote, "They manipulated me into participating in behaviors that ate away at me, eroding my ability to comprehend reality and preventing me from defending myself. The most destructive wound they inflicted was that of forced complicity, a betrayal of self that was crafted by her abusers. But I stand here today to declare that their tactics of fear and intimidation did not work. Virginia's spirit could not be broken. She became a beacon of hope, a warrior, fighting not just for herself, but for every survivor who suffered in silence. She said, I felt it was my duty to stand up to predators like Epstein and Maxwell. I would put my neck on the line to make sure my daughter never has to go through what I had to endure. These survivors like Virginia have transformed into mothers and strong women, fierce in the face of adversity. Many of them have daughters the same age they were when they faced their own abuse. They are determined to break the cycle, to shatter the silence that has kept so many in the shadows. Virginia quoted in her memoir, "There I was, as the mother of 3 children. I felt it was my duty to stand up to predators like Epstein and Maxwell. I mentioned to Ellie in particular, her daughter, I would put my neck on the line to make sure she never has to go through what I had to go through. I said, joining Edward's CVRA case, what I would want somebody to do for my daughter or sister and friend. In the end, I said, I was just trying to do the right thing. That's what I felt like I'm doing," I said. "I'm making a small dent in this big world we live in." Well, sissy, you didn't just make a small dent. You made a monumental impact, a resounding statement that echoed across the world. You built an unbreakable wall, a barrier that will protect future generations from the horrors of abuse. As we gather here today, I urge each of you, members of Congress, advocates, and all those who hear this message, to join us in this fight. We demand justice, accountability, and support for survivors. And we keep getting asked this: what does justice mean, you ask? It starts with acknowledgement. That's the first step. Acknowledge in the face of survivors that this happened and that this is true. Your vote carries that weight. My sister is not a political tool for you to use. These survivors are not political tools for you to use. These are real stories, real trauma, and it's time for you to stop just talking about it and act. Vote yes. Virginia's legacy is not just hers. It belongs to all of us who stand against injustice. Together, we will ensure that the voices of survivors are heard, that the truth prevails, and that the horrors of the past are never repeated. Thank you. Thank you for listening, and thank you for standing with us. Together, we will not let Virginia's fight be in vain. Together, we will not let the predators win. Together, we will be the change this world desperately needs. Thank you.
So beautiful.
This is me when I met Jeffrey Epstein in 1991. I always share the date when I talk about my story because people rarely acknowledge how long this has actually been going on. And for too long, truth has been buried, survivors have been silenced, and powerful people have been protected. And today we stand in a moment that will decide whether our government still belongs to the American people or to those who prey on them. Because when mountains of evidence and decades of victim reports across 5 administrations still lead to sweetheart deals or no prosecution at all, this isn't just one case gone wrong. It's an institutional failure on a historic scale, and every member of Congress and this administration must answer for that failure. Millions of sexual abuse survivors know the pain of speaking up and watching the institutions that are meant to protect them look away. We're not alone in this. Epstein may be the headline, but the betrayal reaches every corner of our country. And if our justice system can collapse this completely for so long, then Congress cannot pretend that the system is working. Not for us, and not for the generations that will live with the consequences of what they choose now. One long overdue step towards repairing this damage is the Epstein Files Transparency Act. Because without transparency, there's no accountability. Without accountability, there is no justice. And without justice, democracy dies.
Yeah.
So representatives, you have a choice to show millions of Americans whether you stand with us or with the powerful predators that are counting on your complicity. Thank you.
Yeah. Good job.
Chad, if you're just tuned in, these are Epstein survivors. This is press conference. Epstein Files Transparency Act.
This is me. This was me. My name is Charlene Rochard, and I stand before you today not as a victim of rumor or conspiracy, but as a survivor of Jeffrey Epstein's abuse. Far too long, survivors like me have been dismissed, silenced, or told that our pain was exaggerated or fabricated. Let me be clear. This is not a hoax.
Yes, it's
What we endured was real, and it has scarred lives across 5 presidential administrations. The truth has been buried in sealed files and hidden records for far too long. The Epstein Files Transparency Act is not just about survivors. It's about America itself. How can we keep America great if the principles the nation was founded on, that power belongs to the people, is not protected? No one, no matter how wealthy and well-connected, stands above the law. If we cannot face the truth, then we betray the very ideals that defines us as a country. By passing this act, Congress has the chance to prove that truth matters more than privilege, that justice matters more than influence, and that America has the courage to confront even the most uncomfortable realities. This is not just about survivors. It's about every American who believes in accountability, fairness, and the promise of justice. I stand here today not only for myself, but for every survivor of Jeffrey Epstein's abuse who has carried this burden in silence, and for every citizen who believes that justice delayed is justice denied.
Yes.
I want to thank Representatives Ro Khanna and Thomas Massey for standing with us. Thank you. And I especially want to thank Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene. Her unwavering support, her courage to stand with us and demand transparency gives us strength. Thank you. It shows that this fight for accountability is bigger than politics. It's about humanity, justice, and truth. This is about America's future. It's about whether we, the people, will be heard when we have the courage to stand for truth and justice. Our voices are real. Our pain is real. And our demand for justice will not be silenced. Thank you.
Amen. Yes. Girl, Charlene. Hello. Good for you, girl. You did amazing.
My name is Laura Bloom McGee. This is my first time speaking publicly about my abuse. As a young woman in New York City, I was pursuing a modeling career and building a life of giving back through my philanthropic work. Instead, I was intentionally groomed and became part of an international model sex trafficking ring that was led by Jeffrey Epstein. I was sexually and mentally abused by Jeffrey Epstein. He used my dreams and vulnerabilities to silence me. Today, I am here to break that silence. Sex trafficking and sexual abuse are crimes against human beings, not political talking points. For too long, Epstein's abuse was an open secret, with his network remained protected. Evil thrives in darkness. We must shine a light on every corner where it hides. Nothing should be off limits in the search for truth. Please vote that everything in the files be released. Let investigations proceed without obstruction. Demand oversight and deliver justice. The government must never side with predators. I come as one survivor, but I stand here for everyone who prayed for me, who believed in me, and who hoped for me. To my fellow survivors, your courage brought me here. We are more than victims. We are mothers, daughters, sisters, friends. This is not a hoax, and we will not be erased. Shame on any elected official who obstructs truth and justice for the American people. Thank you.
Amen, Laura. Yeah, girl.
My name is Liz Stein. In 1994, I was a senior in college, just 21 years old.
I had aspirations of attending law school after graduation, and it looked like I had a bright future ahead of me. 1994 was also the year I met Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein. My involvement with them changed the trajectory of my entire life. The Epstein files are not about loyalty to any one political party. They're evidence of a crime. We stand here today, victims of the crime of sex trafficking. I'm here today speaking both for my 21-year-old self and for the countless number of people who have experienced sexual violence. When I am asked what I would tell my younger self if I could say something, I say that I would tell myself to tell someone. And if they don't listen, to tell someone else. And to just keep telling until someone listens. And even if nobody listens to you, you should be proud of yourself because you stood in your uncomfortable truth when others could not. And that is true bravery. We stand here today as survivors, part of a sorority that none of us asked to join. We have told our stories over and over and over. Now it's time to see who was listening. We ask that you vote to release the files, all of them, so the victims of this crime can finally see justice. Thank you.
Amen. Yes! You go, girl.
Well, hello, everyone, and I want to first say thank you for your ongoing leadership. I know it must not be easy thing to do, much like it's not easy for us to be doing this, so I guess we're in this together, so thank you so much. I feel like our courage has, we're reflecting, mirroring courage, because that's what it takes to do this, right? So this was me at 22 years old. I was not a child, technically, very young adult. I imagine most of you here can relate to the mindset and to be 22 years old. So today is a good day, and I thank God for that. It's widely and undeniably clear that our current political climate is quite rigid and seemingly at war with one another. This sets a stage for voices, survivor voices, to get spoken over and drowned out by the political darts whizzing by. Not today, though. Today, our truth and our power have steadily risen up. We are at the peak. Our voices prevail today. Our voices initiated the coming together of both political parties. That's pretty big, I think. Republicans and Democrats, we all stand together today. We all stand together for justice, and we must continue to do so to protect the integrity of our country and our democracy. Truth and justice must prevail. The children today are those that will lead this nation one day. Think about that. What does that mean to each of you? If anyone doubts that this does not directly contribute to the fate of our country and democracy, I challenge you and I urge you to think again. Our voices are a fundamental pillar of future generations. Today, that's what we stand here for. Accountability, action, and justice. Let's get this vote done today. Let's send it through the Senate and straight to President Trump's desk for signing. I'd like to be there that day that he signs. I'm sure all of us would like to be there. Today is a good day, and let's keep moving forward. Thank you so much.
I just want to give you a hug.
Okay.
Hey guys, we're actually pressed for time, so we are not going to be taking questions. Going further, I bring back Rokana. He's going to do our closing conversation and comments.
Well, thank you, Haley. Teresa is right. It's pretty big what the survivors have accomplished today. And I just want to say how eloquent, strong, and admirable they were. Let's give them a round of applause for their courage. Thomas and Marjorie and I will take a few questions from people who haven't. Yeah. Go ahead.
That's been a red herring all along.
I can't hear the question at all.
I've always been in favor of this legislation, and there's a provision in there you can read if you would just read it that protects them. Now, if he wants to offer more protections in the Senate, that's fine with us, but here's the problem. Now we have to vote on it again in the House. And so, as you heard, justice delayed is justice denied. It could be just another delay tactic. But we want to...
Is that what you think? That's the motivation?
I think the Speaker wants to save face. He's going to vote for a piece of legislation today that he's disparaged for 4 months. And however he needs to come on board, we want him on board. So we appreciate that.
Did you want to? Go ahead.
Go ahead. Well, you know, there's becoming a reckoning in Britain that needs to happen in the United States. A prince lost his title. The ambassador to the United States lost his job. We need to see those same kind of consequences here. As my colleague Rose said, there shouldn't be buildings named after these perpetrators of these heinous crimes. There shouldn't be scholarships named after them. And there needs to be accounting. We've seen tens of thousands of pages released by the Oversight Committee. What we've not seen is a single name. So I implore you to look.
That is actually
and see
insane.
if we have true justice and transparency in here. And the survivors will know when that has happened.
And I do think that Prince Andrew does need to come and testify at our Oversight Committee, and that
Oh, wow.
bipartisan. But I share Thomas's view that the urgency that the British people have shown in getting justice needs to inspire an urgency here in America.
That would be incredible. Get Prince Andrew here to testify.
Well,
is that frustrating for you? Why isn't he doing that? And also, did you ask him to be here today? It's a really powerful moment, this.
Look, I'll let my colleague speak. I hope the president meets the survivors. And I hope when he signs the bill, the survivors are there. I don't care if I'm there, Thomas Massey's there, Representative Green's there, but the survivors should be there. But I hope he meets them, because I think if anyone who meets them and sees their emotion will be moved. And my goal is to get justice here. So I hope he will meet them and really hear what's happened and actually take action. But the broader point is, yes, the president could order the Justice Department to release the files, but in a constitutional democracy, what we're supposed to have is Congress says that the files should be released, and then it's not on the whim of any president. Then the Justice Department is compelled to release those files because that's the law of the land.
Let's just take a, yeah. Take. So Senator Merkley is a Democrat. He's led the exact same legislation that Roe and I introduced in the House. One Republican co-sponsored his bill yesterday, and I have spoken to at least one more who says they will co-sponsor. The important thing about the Senate is that they need not to muck this bill up. There's a lot of attention on here. We've needlessly spent 4 months dragging this out. A representative, a duly elected representative, was denied her seat in Congress for 49 days, and it's time to pull the Band-Aid off. The Senate, it may be tempting for them to get cute and to do things that will limit the release of these documents. They are afraid that people will be embarrassed. Well, that's the whole point here. They need to be brought to justice, and embarrassment is no reason to stop it. So the Senate, John Thune, it's up to him. He needs to bring this to the floor of the Senate, and I think the vote today will show that in the House.
And the president, look, the president has said he would sign the bill. You're going to get almost a unanimous vote here. So you have the president and a unanimous Congress believing that this protects the survivors and is calling for the release. There's no reason for the Senate now to, as Representative Massey puts it, muck around with it. They need to put it up, have a vote, have the president sign it. If there's any further protections, they can do that through the DOJ process. But what they should not do is delay a vote on a bill that the House is going to vote overwhelmingly for and that the president supports.
Yeah, just go ahead.
They should just vote it right now. Vote it right now. We gotta wait till 2. It's gonna be at 2 p.m. though.
I only take people's actions seriously, no longer words. And I'll tell you, because I wasn't a Johnny come lately to the MAGA train. I was day one 2015, and there's a big difference in those Americans and those that decided to support President Trump later on. And I'll tell you right now, this has been one of the most destructive things to MAGA, is watching the man that we supported early on, 3 elections, for people that stood hours, slept in their cars to go to rallies, have fought for truth and transparency, and to hold what we consider a corrupt government accountable. Watching this actually turn into a fight has ripped MAGA apart. And the only thing that will speak to the powerful, courageous women behind me is when action is actually taken to release these files, and the American people won't tolerate any other bullshit. That's where we are today. Thank you.
Ooh.
Go ahead. Last, 2 more questions, and then we're around all day.
Is this a watershed? How would you sum up today in terms of your battle to get to the truth?
I would say that these survivors have been fighting for decades, and they finally are being heard by the American people, and we're finally going to have a reckoning for this Epstein class that has gotten away with horrific things. Look, I grew up in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. People went to church, they played Little League, they went to their neighbors for barbecue. They didn't go to a rape island and abuse young girls or traffic young girls. And people with extreme wealth have thought that the laws don't apply to them, and their culture is totally out of touch with the values that built America. And finally, we're going to have a reckoning over it.
How worried are you?
Let's take the lady here.
Let me ask you this. You said you wanted this to go straight to the Senate. What message does it send to the survivors behind you if the Senate doesn't act quickly to move this bill forward?
Well, they're not here. They're not going to answer questions, so I'll answer a question. I prefer, actually, it goes straight to the president. He can release these files without the Senate acting. Sometimes they take a long time to get things done.
Then?
The House figured out a way to take 4 months to get this done. I think it's disrespectful to the survivors if they delay this. There's nothing more important than cleaning out the rot in this country. And this is rot, and it's not a partisan issue. And the senators need to get on this. Yes, the economy is important. Yes, international policy is important, but there's nothing more important than getting to this rot and cleaning it out. They should put it at the top of their agenda.
There's a provision in the bill already that would allow the DOJ to not release certain information if it would jeopardize an active investigation, and the president just last week ordered his DOJ to conduct an investigation. What makes you think you would actually, if this bill passes, see these files?
There are 1,000 survivors. They can't open enough investigations to cover up everything that's in these files. And yes, it's true they can try to protect a few certain people or a few certain companies, but those investigations will eventually end. And in the meantime, there's not enough investigations to cover up 1,000 different crimes, 1,000 different rapes, 1,000 different sex trafficking instances. And this is not a moot point, even though they are doing that.
And once this bill is signed into law, any career official at the DOJ or the FBI who does not comply with the law is at legal risk. It's no longer just up to the president.
Look, we could have
Wow.
passed a simple resolution here in the House, and that would have been the end of it. Instead, we chose a very hard path, which is to get legislation, a law passed, which means it has to go through the House, the Senate, and be presented to the president. And that will have the force of law. They will be breaking the law if they do not release these files.
Thank you very much. Last question, and then.
I believe he's trying to protect friends and donors. And by the way, these aren't necessarily Republicans. Once you get to $1 billion, you transcend parties. You just assume you can pay off whatever party is in charge of the White House, whatever party is in charge of the House of Representatives. And this is about those kinds of people. I think he's been trying to protect them. And I think it also incriminates our own government. This is a complete and total failure of the justice system, as the survivors have witnessed here today to us. It incriminates the FBI. It incriminates our intelligence agencies. It incriminates police departments in West Palm Beach. And that's what has been protected by this, either willfully or unknowingly, and it's time to end it.
And I would agree with Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene that what matters now is just the action. I don't speculate on what politicians' motives are or what's in their heart. The point is the American people have spoken, Congress has spoken, release the files. It's time for justice. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
There it is. Wow. There it is. Release the files. There's going to be a vote in 4.5, 5 hours, y'all. There will be a vote in the House to release the Jeffrey Epstein files finally. I'm not sure what actually is what they're talking about right here, but I want to pull up a few things though. An article that we can read. We did just listen to that full press conference of the Epstein survivors. There's an article I want to read right here, and it goes over the same thing. Right? House expected to vote on the bill forcing release of the Jeffrey Epstein files. So we might already just know all the details, but let's just give it a quick skim through just in case there's something we're missing maybe. So yeah, we know that they're gonna vote. The culmination of a months-long effort. Okay, so it took about a month when a small bipartisan group of House lawmakers introduced a petition in July to maneuver around House Speaker Mike Johnson, control of which bills see the House floor. It appeared a long-shot effort, especially as Trump urged his supporters to dismiss the matter as a hoax, but both Trump and Johnson failed in their efforts to prevent the vote. Now the president has bowed to the growing momentum behind the bill and even said Republicans should vote for it. Yeah, there's a lot. Like, everyone wants these files released. Everyone's been talking about it. Everyone wants these files released, and they might actually, well, they're getting voted on today. We don't know when they're actually going to get released, but we should definitely just like skim through everything on stream when those files get released. We definitely need to see whose names are in here. I think major news sources will get these files first, so we could probably just like piggyback off of them. Well, let's see. Let's keep reading. Trump on Monday said he will sign the bill. Yep, if it passes both chambers of Congress, adding, "Let the Senate look at it." Yeah, but the guy, I don't know what the white guy's name was, but he just said that the bill doesn't even need to go through the Senate. It could just go to straight to the president's desk. Why aren't they just doing that then? They should have had this press conference over there at the White House, and then everyone should have walked in, and then Trump signs it. Boom. Easy. Tuesday's vote also provides a further boost to the demands that the Justice Department release its case files on Epstein, a well-connected financier who killed himself in a Manhattan jail, allegedly. Awaiting trial in 2019 on charges. He sexually abused and trafficked underage girls. Maybe he did kill himself. I don't know. It is suspicious though, right? Of course, there's a whole conspiracy around that. A separate investigation conducted by the House Oversight Committee has released thousands of pages of emails and other documents from Epstein's estate, showing his connections to global leaders, Wall Street power brokers, influential political figures, and Trump himself. Wow. I mean, he allegedly killed him. That's what they say. But I mean, come on. I mean, it is interesting to think about because, you know, it's maximum security prison. The cameras went out. How could he have done it? I mean, I did see a little bit of like reenactment. He would have had to like sit on his ass while he was tied up to the bed frame or something like this. But it's just it's a whole conspiracy theory. Maybe it was true. Maybe he did kill himself. Maybe not. I have no fucking clue. But man, would it have been something if he was alive right now? He would have definitely had to testify, man. And that would have been fucking interesting. They did mention in the press conference, they did mention that they wanted Prince Andrew to come to America and testify and speak about what he knows. Man, that would be that should totally happen. That should totally happen. But so in 4.5, 5 hours, the Epstein Transparency Act is going to get voted on in the House, and we'll see what happens after that. I'll be live during that, but I want to switch it up a little bit. I'm going to switch up the vibe, okay? Because all we can do is just wait now. We heard the press conference. We know they're going to vote later. I want to switch it up to Broadview. Because Broadview, if you guys didn't know, the mayor last night, mayor declares civil emergency amid death threats against Broadview officials. Chat, there were protesters and people at City Hall in Broadview last night. It was all being streamed. I had it up. If you weren't here, you missed out. You need to subscribe, notifications on. But this incident last night was pretty crazy. I can't bring up the footage from last night because it was on TikTok and I don't know how to get the old feeds, but basically, like I said, there were protesters at City Hall, and some of them, look, death threats. I think one person was on like national news and he did make a death threat. I wonder if they'll play that in this video. But let's watch it and then we'll check out the rest of this article.
And officers injured outside the Broadview. That emergency order comes days after several protesters were arrested and officers injured outside the Broadview ICE processing center. And as some community members say, tensions are at a boiling point.
It's very upsetting. It's very upsetting. The whole climate in this area for the last months is just disturbing. We don't get any peace. We just want our community back.
Bryant Roby among Broadview residents who'd hoped to attend the village board meeting, only to learn it was being held remotely.
Due to safety
protocols, it's best that we do it virtually to protect the integrity of
Wow,
the
there you
people
go.
that live and
What's up,
work in this
CJC?
village.
Broadview's mayor citing recent threats for why she's declared a civil emergency, including a September 4th telephoned bomb threat against Village Hall and a death threat made against her
That's actually insane. Someone called in a bomb threat to the city hall.
October 14th.
I will say that I stand by every decision that has been made as it relates to the village of Broadview.
I mean, it's not safe. My kids scared to go to school. I mean, it's just a lot of drama. We got the helicopters everywhere.
Recent meetings have turned heated, with the village facing criticism for restricting protest hours at the ICE processing center, where last Friday more than 20 people were arrested and 4 officers injured. Mayor Thompson says protesters attempted to storm Village Hall Saturday night, but protesters dispute that claim, providing this video to ABC7.
I think this was last
they
night.
peacefully filed a complaint there about force that was used at the Friday demonstration.
I'm not trying to make things
This was last night.
hard for Broadview. I'm trying to make things hard for ICE, and Broadview is unfortunately making that hard to do.
In a statement, a group called the Coalition Against Broadview ICE Facility says it does not condone violence and is committed to peaceful protest.
Okay, so yeah, protesters showed up last night to witness the city hall meeting, and it was being broadcast on Zoom. GG. They didn't show the guy, but there was a guy there last night who was saying, listen, if you target the elderly and you do things to like our elders, then like we're gonna get that same, we're gonna put out that same energy to you. I thought that they were gonna play that clip, but they didn't. If there was an exception that the departure of Border Patrol Commander Gregory Bovino and Texas National Guard members from the Chicago area would bring down the temperature in Broadview, that has not been the case, and now the West Suburban Village's mayor is taking emergency action. I wonder what it means though. Like, okay, so he's calling for civil emergency. Does that mean National Guard, or like what does that actually mean? Mayor Katrina Thompson declared a civil emergency in Broadview because of a series of recent threats. Boom, boom, boom. The bomb threat. It's not safe. My kids are scared to go to school. That's what that guy just said. This emergency declaration allowed the village to hold Monday night's Board of Trustees meeting virtually rather than in person. I wonder what it means though. Okay, so she calls, or they call civil emergency. But what does it actually mean? I don't know. I have another vid that we can watch right here though. Let's see what they say.
Broadview is declaring a civil emergency following threats against village officials.
A village meeting scheduled for tonight will now be held remotely. WGN's Angelica Sanchez is live in Broadview with what we know. Angelica.
Okay, let's see.
Good evening to you both. The village says there's been a series of threats against the mayor and Village Hall. We did see a number of people that showed up here tonight, most of them residents unaware of the changes to tonight's meeting. We've been told the FBI has been made aware of a threat specifically against Mayor Katrina Thompson.
We know that. We know that already.
Tonight, the village of Broadview says threats to village officials have grown since this past Friday, when a clash between protesters and law enforcement outside the ICE processing facility led to 21 arrests. The village says 2 Broadview police officers, a deputy, and Illinois state trooper were injured.
You know,
in a press release,
now that the civil emergency has been called, it might look really different today. At the ICE facility protests. At the ICE protests right here where we usually watch the protests, it may look very different. I don't know.
Village spokesman says a group of out-of-town protesters attempted to storm Village Hall and explicitly threatened to shut down Monday's Board of Trustees meeting. In response, Mayor Katrina Thompson says she is now issuing a civil emergency order allowing the meeting to be held remotely. A village spokesman says a specific death threat was made against Mayor Thompson on October 13th alongside a telephone bomb threat targeting the village municipal building on September 4th. The release says the FBI has been notified of a threat against Thompson. In a statement, Mayor Thompson says, "I will not allow threats of violence or intimidation to disrupt the essential functions of our government, and I will not allow other elected officials, Village Hall staff,
we saw
or
those
residents
interviews
to be placed in harm's way, which is why I signed a civil emergency executive order to ensure we can conduct the public's business securely and without fear of violence.
We want the mayor to know we love her, we support her.
I wonder what the executive order means, or like what's in it, you know? But we heard these guys' interview. I have one more vid about it, but I think it might just be the same thing. Let's give it a quick listen.
Village Hall is shut down after a civil emergency order. Village leaders say they took the action after bomb and death threats against the mayor.
Broadview has become the center of the immigration fight, as it's the first place people detained by federal agents go. Marissa Sulik is in Broadview with the latest tonight. Marissa.
So this was last night whenever people showed up, and then they figured out it was all on Zoom.
Joe and Erica, yeah, dozens of community members came here to the meeting early to show their support for Mayor Katrina Thompson. It was probably the biggest showing I've seen of community members after reporting on these meetings time after time. But they were actually met with a sign on the door here that says that meeting will actually be held remote. And since then, they've been heading home, leaving this parking lot. But community members, business owners, and residents all came out ahead of the meeting, not knowing it was going to be virtual. Mayor Katrina Thompson says she had no choice and had to declare a civil emergency effective immediately. This allows her to have flexibility with public meetings and can choose to hold them in person or remotely. The village says this is why. In September, a bomb threat was made to Village Hall. Last month, a death threat was made to Mayor Thompson. And just this weekend, police say a group of out-of-town protesters tried to storm Village Hall and, quote, shut down tonight's meeting. We spoke with the manager of The View, a restaurant here, who says they made it a priority to come out tonight to show their support.
There's been a lot of stuff, a lot of...
Bro, I heard her family, the mayor's family, was outside the meeting and slapped a protester. Ooh, that's not a good look. That is not a good look. Oh, okay, Red Baron. Okay.
Negative views
towards
the mayor, and we're just here to support that and give a positive side.
We'll see.
Side, she's very supportive of local businesses, black businesses, community, all of that.
Now that emergency is in effect until Mayor Thompson determines there is no longer a threat. If anyone wanted to make a public comment at tonight's meeting, they had to email the village clerk by 5:30, and that meeting is set to start at 6:30. Live in Broadview, Marissa Sulik, CBS News, Chicago.
So I think that executive order is just like, okay, we can have the meetings held on Zoom instead of in person. I think that's all that the executive order is. GG, man. I thought it was gonna be something crazier, but no. I think it still might look a little different today in Broadview. We'll just have to see, and we'll have to wait and see until people get out there. Let me see if there's any feeds up right now. Because like I said, we will wait until, or we have to wait until 2 p.m. 2 p.m. and then we will see the vote for the Epstein files.
They were involved in the Epstein evils. They need to be brought to justice, and it should have been done a long time ago. DOJ, when they in a sudden and urgent.
Is this live? Hold up. One sec, y'all. I'm trying to see if this, yeah, I guess this is live. Let's watch this. We'll watch this.
Interest in the Epstein investigation. Suddenly, it's all in the name of transparency. That's what they're trying to tell us. But
So this is like the other side.
The biggest proponents of this discharge petition were never actually interested in transparency or ensuring justice or protecting victims of this unspeakable tragedy, the Epstein evils. And how do we know that? Because the Democrats had every one of the Epstein files in their possession for the 4 long years of the Biden administration. The Biden Department of Justice had the files the entire time. And not a single one of the people who are so loud and animated right now, they never said anything about it for all those 4 years. None of them held press conferences. None of them demanded the release of the documents. And under Biden's DOJ, when they prosecuted just Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, not a single one of these Democrats or any of the proponents of the discharge ever made any noise about that at all. So it's fair for the American people to ask the question, why now? Why suddenly are they so interested? They have such an urgent interest in the Jeffrey Epstein matter. The truth is simple and straightforward and obvious for anyone who is willing to look at it objectively. Clearly, this is a political exercise for Democrats and a few others, sadly. And it is as deceitful and dishonest as their pointless stunt to shut down the government. Same ideology behind this. Democrats are trying to use the Epstein matter as a political weapon to distract from their own party's failures. And in a desperate attempt, they're trying to somehow tie President Trump to the scandal. President Trump has nothing to do with it. He has said himself he has nothing to hide. And
it's a good point, chat.
Clearly what they've been trying to do. They're trying to attack President Trump. This is what they've done. They weaponized the justice system over the last several years to go after him, and this is their latest attempt. And they don't have a platform or a principle to defend on the Democrat Party side.
I think that they just like they do this back and forth game and they just kick the can down the road. You get what I'm saying? And then like people forget shit like that. I don't think people will ever forget the Epstein files though. Like if they don't get released today, y'all, that's gonna be some major bullshit. People are gonna be pissed. People are going if the Epstein Transparency Act doesn't get voted yes today, people are gonna be fucking pissed, dude.
All their eggs in this basket. That's why you hear endlessly about Epstein. Everything's about Epstein. Now this was an unspeakable tragedy. We said that, and we have great compassion for the victims. And I'm heartened that I met with the victims. Our House Oversight Committee members met with the victims, and they deserve justice. It has been too long delayed. Not just justice for what they were made to endure, but also we need answers on why it took so long for the Department of Justice itself to do that job under previous leadership. Republicans, meanwhile, are working in earnest to deliver transparency to the American people, and we're working to do that in a responsible manner that does no further harm to these innocent people and the victims who have been wrapped into this. There are a few key facts here that everybody needs to understand. First, I mentioned the House Oversight Committee doing its work. That is a bipartisan effort. They are already producing far more than the discharge petition even anticipates. Chairman Comer is our chair of oversight. Some of the biggest bulldogs in Congress serve on that committee, you all know, and I've mentioned this so many times. They have been on the Republican and Democrat side. They're deeply dug in. They've been working around the clock. They worked even through the government shutdown, and there were tranches of documents that were released even over that period. So far, by last count, it's over 65,000 documents, Epstein file documents that are now out in the public for everyone to review. That includes tens of thousands of pages from the Epstein estate. And that includes Epstein's flight logs, his personal financial records and ledgers, his daily calendars, and so much more. And none of that is even written or included in the discharge petition. So in other words, the Oversight Committee is doing far more than the discharge even anticipates, and the most valuable information thus far has come from the Epstein estate files. That was produced because of the work of the Oversight Committee that is doing that in a professional, robust manner, using the full subpoena authority of the U.S. Congress. From the very beginning, our side has been insistent that this matter must be handled very carefully and with utmost caution and care for the victims. We want maximum transparency. We have always been about that. We want every single person who had any scintilla, there's any scintilla of evidence that they were involved in the Epstein evils, they need to be brought to justice, and it should have been done a long time ago. We need to find out who those people are. But in the meantime, you have to remember there are real people's, innocent people's lives at stake here, and young victims who don't want to be dragged into this political game because it could hurt further what they've already endured. They would be made to suffer more harm if Congress is not careful.
Anti-Muslim protests in Dearborn,
very important work
bro.
in the House Oversight Committee, the Democrat-led discharge petition would carelessly dump thousands of documents without proper protections for the innocent. I brought a chart in here this morning. I want to illustrate for you what we are concerned with. Now, I was a federal court litigator. The members of our House Judiciary Committee, Republicans in particular, have many of these concerns. You have Chairman Jim Jordan and attorneys like Chip Roy, who's running for Attorney General of Texas now. You have Brad Knott, who's a former federal prosecutor. Many members on the committee. Andy Biggs is running for governor of Arizona. They're lawyers, and they understand that the way the discharge petition was drafted is haphazard and dangerous. This is why we had been opposed to this point, okay? And I could be here for a long time going through all the details of it, but the big concern we've all had all along is that the House bill, if it's passed in its current form and it was signed into law, it is dangerously flawed. And our problem and our frustration is there's no way for us in the House to amend it or correct these problems because the authors of the discharge will not allow it. And that's one of our great frustrations. Let me just very quickly, we have a legal document that the lawyers, we have all drafted to explain all this, but let me give you maybe the top 5 concerns about it, and there are more. But
okay, so he's saying that if the Epstein Transparency Act gets released today as it is, all these bullet points you see are the dangers of the discharge petition. Victim privacy, innocent persons, CSAM, future investigations, declassification. So,
as drafted, the discharge petition, it fails to fully protect victim privacy. I'm going to read you an excerpt out of our legal document we put together to explain all this. Congress should give the Attorney General broader authority to redact all the victim information. The discharge doesn't do that. This would prevent the release of information that could be used to unmask victims who have chosen to remain anonymous. Now, you have some very brave women who have come forward and put their names and faces out there and done press conferences and explained that justice is overdue, and our hearts go out to them, and they are heroes. But you have as many as 1,000 women, by some of the accounts, who may be caught up in this. And the vast majority of them have not come forward, probably for obvious reasons. They don't want to be unmasked. But the discharge petition doesn't have adequate protections. It risks re-victimizing those who were trafficked and exploited. And the courts have recognized this concern, by the way. I'll read you a quick excerpt. On August 20th of this year, Judge Richard Berman, the Southern District of New York, issued an order denying the DOJ's request to release Epstein grand jury materials, noting, quote, names and identifying information of victims appear in the subject materials, unquote. Judge Berman then quoted a letter related to the victims' concerns, which stated the following, quote, transparency cannot come at the expense of the very people whom the justice system is sworn to protect, unquote. And importantly, the judge quoted a letter from one of the victims. In the proceeding, she is named as Jane Doe 2. She said this is one of the victims, quote, I beg the court to make sure it is of the utmost priority that in any sort of release, all and every detail that could possibly reveal our identities be redacted. The victims of Epstein's evils deserve that protection, and the discharge does not currently provide it, okay? Number two, the discharge petition could create new victims, okay? Because it requires the DOJ to release information even in cases where the DOJ or the FBI has already reviewed it and determined it is not credible. It is false information. Doing this and requiring this to come out could ruin the reputations of completely innocent people, such as those who may just have known Epstein but knew nothing of his crimes, or whose names he exploited. Think of this, innocent people whose names he exploited and used to try to get close to his intended victims. Their names may be in these files, and they had nothing to do with this. And so by just haphazardly releasing it, you're going to destroy their reputations. Releasing information containing the names of innocent people would subject those innocent people to a guilt by association. It would create an entirely new group of victims who have no means to clear their names. That's a concern of Congress, and it should be. It should be. Number three, the discharge in its current form fails to prohibit the release of child sexual abuse materials. That is a term of art. It's called CSAM, okay? It's defined in the U.S. Code. The discharge is so haphazardly written because, remember, it's just a political exercise for these guys. They don't seem to care about this, but they cited the wrong section of the U.S. Code. So when they say that we don't want child pornography to come out, child sexual abuse materials, of course we don't want that released. They wrote this thing so quickly that they cited the wrong section. So you know what that means? It means that it doesn't really bestow any real legal authority on the Attorney General to redact those materials. And that would compel the DOJ to release that stuff into the public. Every single person in this room knows that's wrong, and you should stand against it. But that's what the discharge says. Number four, it jeopardizes the future federal investigations of the United States. Why? Because the discharge only allows the Attorney General to redact limited portions of records that could publicly identify individuals who were promised confidentiality. In this scenario, you're talking about whistleblowers. You're talking about confidential informants who came forward and gave information and evidence in exchange for agreeing to have their identities not revealed. Violating confidentiality, imagine the chilling effect that would have on future investigations. Who's going to want to come forward if they think Congress can take a political exercise and reveal their identities? Who's going to come talk to prosecutors? It's very dangerous. It would deter future whistleblowers and informants. And the release of that could also publicly reveal the identity, by the way, of undercover law enforcement officers who are working in future operations. Dangerous stuff.
Wow.
And they seem not to care. And by the way, I'm going to remind you again, we went to the authors. We asked the authors of the discharge to change this, and they said jump in the Potomac. All right? Number five, national security concerns, okay? The discharge requires the Attorney General to release within 30 days, quote, classified information to the maximum extent possible. This ignores the principle that declassification should always rest, and always has rested, with the agency that originated the intelligence. Why? So that they can protect their critical sources and methods. It is incredibly dangerous to demand that officials or employees of the DOJ declassify materials that originated in other agencies, in intelligence agencies. I could go on. I won't be here all morning, but there's a lot of problems. There's also a lot of legal scholars, and I'm among them, who are concerned that you've got problems with grand jury secrecy.
I mean, these are all good points if it's all true, but the thing
prohibits the release of grand jury material.
Like, we might not get the files today then, if what he's saying is all true then. But the people on the other press conference we were listening to, they did say, like, oh yeah, it's gonna get passed. Everyone, Democrats and Republicans in there, they want this passed, so it's gonna get passed.
But the way that
we just gotta wait and see.
You can make an argument that it requires all that to come out, and that is a serious problem. Grand juries are not adversarial, okay? There's no opportunity there for cross-examination. You can't disprove evidence. You can't challenge the evidence in any way. And if Congress goes in and breaks that seal and just starts releasing sensitive grand jury materials and allegations like that, it raises a risk that the grand jury process will be politicized in the future. And that's a whole other danger that we could talk about all day. I'm gonna wrap this up and just say that Republicans support maximum transparency. We always have. The President of the United States supports maximum transparency. You've heard him say it in his own words. But he has had the same concerns that I've just articulated here, and we talked about that. All of us have had these concerns, and we understand that we have a responsibility to innocent people and victims that is not properly guarded by the discharge petition, and that's why we're so incensed about that. We've got to make sure that we disclose the names of anybody who aided or conspired in any way with Jeffrey Epstein. But at the same time, you've got to make sure that innocent people are protected. So we have to do this in a way that doesn't violate victim privacy, that doesn't create new victims, that doesn't disclose the names of any whistleblower or informant, that causes the release of grand jury materials or child sexual abuse materials, or undermines our national security. And I think everybody of good conscience and common sense would say, of course you have to do that. But here we are. So the discharge petition got its 218th signature, and it is going to go forward. It is going to pass because it only takes 218. And we know that the Democrats have disregarded all these concerns, and they're going to move it forward anyway. So all the people of good conscience here say, we've registered our concerns, we stated our opposition as long as possible, but we're also for maximum
Even he's saying it's going to get passed.
So what am I to do as a leader in a situation like this? I call my counterpart in the Senate, Leader Thune, and I talked him through this with him and shared our deep concerns. And of course, they share those concerns as well. And so I'm very confident that when this moves forward in the process, if and when it is processed in the Senate, which there's no certainty that that will be, that they will take the time methodically to do what we have not been allowed to do in the House, to amend this discharge petition and to make sure that these protections are there. The authors of the discharge do not allow us to do that here. That's the rules here. But in the Senate, they can correct it. So under that circumstance, because of that, we know there's serious deficiencies. We know that the work of our colleagues in the Senate can address that and will.
I have it sped up.
Concerned as we are about all this. As we've insisted from the very beginning, Republicans are the only party trying to make a material difference in ensuring maximum transparency.
Give me one sec, chat.
I put the bill on the
floor. I got to be right back.
Tonight. And guess who objected to it? The Democrats. Okay. If this is so urgent and they were so concerned about getting this done and seeing justice be done and all that, they would not have blocked the request. Okay. This is about politics. They blocked our unanimous consent motion to expedite their bill and made us waste all this additional time so they could have a show vote today. Republicans are ready to get the job done, to move forward, so we can continue to get onto these important issues of dealing with what the American people demand and deserve for us to deal with. And so I want to leave you with this thought. Everybody should think long and hard about who here is acting truthfully, honestly, and in good faith. It is not the Democrat Party that has obfuscated and blatantly lied for the last 4 years about all these things. It is not the Democrats who shut down the government for their own selfish political purposes. It is not the Democrats who blocked the passage of this discharge a week ago because they wanted to have a political moment. It is the Republicans who are acting in good faith, and I believe the American people are going to see that and understand it. I'm going to vote to move this forward. I think it could be close to a unanimous vote because everybody here, all the Republicans, want to go on record to show they're for maximum transparency, but they also want to note that we're demanding that this stuff get corrected before it is ever moved through the process and is completed. I sincerely hope my Democrat colleagues will show the same level of urgency and enthusiasm when it comes to tackling the real issues facing the country that we got to get to, and that's what we really want to talk about this morning. Affordability issues are real, and the Democrats themselves created the crisis. Remember, over the last 4 years of the Biden administration, they spent like drunken sailors, and when you throw a bunch of new money into the system, it makes inflation rise, right? Republicans are ready and eager to continue our work to clean up the mess that the Democrats made. We've been doing that already, and we're going to continue to do it. Joining the leadership team this morning to discuss our record-setting success and our continued efforts to bring back affordability, to lower the cost of living, to lower the cost of health care, and have abundant American energy are two of our Republican colleagues who are leading the charge on this issue. And Chairman Brett Guthrie, you'll hear from in a moment, from Energy and Commerce. We'll speak with you, and Congressman Nick Begich of Alaska, great state of Alaska, is going to address it as well. But I'll first turn it over to our chair of our conference, Lisa McClain.
Thank you. Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome back. So let me start with this. House Republicans will not allow Democrats to distract us. And we will not allow any more obstructions to stop us from doing the work of the American people. Because the American people sent us here to do a job, and that's what we intend to do. The Democrats' shutdown never stopped us. The countless witch hunts against President Trump never stopped us either. And the latest discharge petition is just another Democrat distraction. And I can assure you that won't stop us either. Because the American people actually expect us to do our jobs and not to distract and obstruct. For more than 40 days, Democrats inflicted needless pain on hardworking Americans. And I ask you this, for what? For what did all of these Americans suffer pain? They did it to use the American people's pain as political leverage. And let that sink in for a second. And don't take my word for it, take Catherine Clark's word for that. They used the leverage for $1.5 trillion of a wish list that Americans' families just simply can't afford. But Democrats, they didn't get a single one of their demands because House Republicans actually stayed united. And now we're taking that momentum into the fight that matters most to the American people. This week, House Republicans will pass consequential bills to make energy costs more affordable. Bills that will lower energy costs for hardworking families, bills that will build on the work that we've achieved to unleash American energy that we passed in the Working Families Tax Cuts. Bills that increase energy production, which you'll hear from Representative Begich and Chairman Guthrie, that cut red tape and drive down prices for every single American. And contrast that to what will the Democrats do? They will almost certainly vote no. But ask yourself why. Why? It's because their radical left won't let them vote yes. So again, Republicans want to bring down energy costs. That's why we will vote yes on the bill. Democrats have a lot of talking points, but their actions will say no. We don't want to bring down energy costs for Americans, and they will vote no.
She's talking something about completely different.
Ask the Democrats, when will
I think she
your
is.
actions match your words? Because they don't. The contrast is crystal clear. Republicans will always fight to make energy more affordable for the American people. Now, the Democrats, they'll talk about it, but when the rubber meets the road and they have to vote, watch how they vote. They will absolutely vote no. So while Democrats
caught up.
prioritize the wishes of their radical base, we will keep moving forward with our agenda that actually lowers costs for the American people.
Okay, I don't really care about that. Listen, even Mike Johnson just said they only need, what, 241 votes to pass the bill, and he said they're going to pass it. So, the Epstein Transparency Act is going to get passed more than likely, like 99%, by 2 p.m. And let's see, what is it? Let me see what it looks like real quick on the House floor. No, they're not. They're just talking. Let me hear what he's talking about.
Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force and the Honor Guard. Scott took pride in wearing the Hayes Police Department uniform. He was never about.
Okay, they're talking about related things, but very interesting, y'all. Very interesting day so far. We talked about the Epstein files. We talked about Broadview. We talked about what else? That was it. That covered all of the stream. But I'm gonna end it right here, okay, y'all? I'm gonna go do some things. I gotta go do some things, and I'll be back before they start voting, so we can check it out again, okay? So if there's any new peeps out there, make sure you sub and like the stream. We will be back in a little bit, in a couple of hours, okay? Have a good day, y'all. I'll see y'all in a bit. Bye-bye.